Holy, what's good everybody, it's your boy Romanpuss here. Now, One Piece Bounty Rush has been out and going on the 6th anniversary. Total 6 years the game's been out. So I wanted to go over and take a look at the Bounty Fest level units, which are the ones that come once a month, and see who was the best of each year in the previous 5 years that we have had. Now, there are a variety of good units that come out each year, and we're top of the top for the meta, so it actually wasn't too hard to determine this. There were a couple years that were tricky, but we got through it. So, without further ado, let's start with the first year's characters that were released. Who was the best in the first year? There were some major contenders, lots of things going on. You had the Whitebeard and Ace. Whitebeard, Red Defender, Whitebeard actually ran the meta, but I think my top choices have to be between Green Defender Big Mom with a whopping skill that can hit really hard with her Prometheus skill. The only downside of that was the fact that it was 51-second cooldown, but it was 752 damage, which nearly one-shot a lot of units at the time. So either her, Red Doflamingo with a very short 17-second skill 1 cooldown that made him invincible. Remember, invincibility was not very common at this time, and he would be able to run around the map with the movement speed buff as well. So even if he was not winning his fight, which he could win most fights as well, he was always able to run away. Now, that was Red Doflamingo, the very first version of him. He actually ran the meta a lot, and him and Big Mom kind of went at it, even though Big Mom was a newer unit at the time, so that's why she was kind of able to hold. Now, one of the last units of that first year, now these are the top 3, so I just couldn't choose between these 3, and they each kind of ran the meta in their own way, is the Green Attacker Kaido. Now, this thing was an absolute monster. It was kind of easy to defeat if you knew how to defeat it, but if you didn't know what you were doing, he was going to slam you. He was the first character. He had the 100% attack and defense buff, which made him one-shot and be the invincible tank that he is, which is why they removed his ability to dodge while he's in this drunken state. This is a 62-second cooldown. There is some cooldown built in the traits, but it was still a rather long skill as well. So you were able to use that skill too, you get in the drunken state, and then one-shot whoever it was with your skill 1. Now, he was the final unit of it. Everyone went crazy because no one expected really a Kaido unit so fast. So those are my top 3. I don't know if I can pick between the 3, but that's year 1. Next up is year 2. This one, I went through, I think, a couple different choices, but then I found out that Luffy, and remember that he was created in this meta and time. So he had rather short cooldowns for his time. He was one of the first units, if not the first unit, to anti-heal. Correct me if I'm wrong somewhere in the chat, please. And on top of that, we had a long range, nearly impossible to dodge skill unless you just guessed when he was going to use it, which is, I guess, is a lot of how those skills work now. But Blue Attacker Luffy, which is Luffy and Law duo unit. Remember, duo units were not that common. I think this was the 2nd or 3rd duo unit that came out as well. And a lot of people loved the Luffy Law team up. So the anti-heal, which was needed, especially for people like Green Roger, things went a long way during this time. I do believe, yeah, this was post-Roger. So Luffy, lots of damage, one-shot nearly anyone as well with that Red Hawk skill, and just overall basic attacks weren't terrible, and he had high amounts of damage increase, which is another thing you had to worry about. That was my overall skill, or year 2 up to the 2nd year. So correct me if I'm wrong, I think actually Roger might have come in after that, but nevertheless, we're moving on to year 3. Okay, year 3 had some interesting units. Now, it was kind of really hard to remember when people came out. This unit is the Red Runner King Albert, whatever you want to call him, just Red Runner, the one with the turn into the Pteranodon form. He came out at the very end in December and happened to run amok, and he was supposed to be kind of geared towards countering the Film Red Shanks, who's been running amok as well. And this was kind of the first real answer to Shanks for all the counters that they came out with, because Film Red Shanks, the Green Attacker one, was an absolute monstrosity, and there was not really any good reliable ways to remove his state. So King came along and actually ran that meta with his insane ability to cap flags, do extra damage on his Pteranodon skill to attackers, who, aka Film Red Shanks, was running amok at the time, and it was absolute chaos. So King came along and was actually really big pain because he had his 3 hits of invincibility when he's capping his flag. The mobility was insane at this time. No one was able to fly as fast as he could. And on top of that, he had the percentage damage Tremor knockback skill, which is just an insanely loaded kit as it is right there. So King was the unit of the year 3. I'm just going to call him by that. So King ran amok at that time. Now, year 4. I don't know if you guys have been able to tell, but obviously I struggled to play the earlier year units because they kind of just have way less to work with. the traits have significantly power crept, and it's come a long way from year 1 to now year 4, which is Charlotte Biscuit Boy. He had the insane ability to keep sending soldiers. Words are difficult. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. I can Jesus, I can do this. Anyways, he has the ability to send his biscuit soldiers over and over and over again as long as the enemy keeps breaking him, which, if you know League Battle and One Piece Bounty Rush, people do nothing but spam their skills, which makes it relatively easy to get your skills off if you just need something to break, like the biscuit soldiers, which healed you and allows you to use the skill again. Now, status effects were also kind of a monstrosity, so he was able to counter those by his ability to heal off status effects by fighting someone like Olin, Big Mom, his mother, he was made to counter. He has also the ability to ignore damage reduction, which went and scaled a very long ways. Even now, to this day, I was actually impressed with how decently useful he is in the current meta. So he can do a lot. There's just certain units, like people with defense buffs, that he can't really touch or mess with. But that's like the way you answer him, is with defense buffs. And that's where the meta went, and that's kind of what cut him out of the meta for the most part. But Charlotte Biscuit Boy ran year 4 and was an absolute monster, and I think anyone who wanted to be killing things and be thriving usually just use him if they were not using an EX. Okay, this last one for year 5 should come to zero surprise to anyone, was the CP9 Wolf Boy, potentially Lucci's rival within the CP9, homeboy Jabra. Wolf Boy, he actually cooks. His multi-hit 1600 base damage or whatever it is absolutely insane. So I think it was even higher than 1600 because it's multiplied by another 4, I believe. So nevertheless, he one-shots you if you have anti-stagger or something, or if you're like a big target. So Jabra has the defense buff. He was the first person to have scaling skills off of defense instead of attack for the first time, so that was huge. He is a multi-hitter to allow him to counter S-Snake, which was the biggest monster of the meta for so long in this year. So he is built to counter S-Snake. Attack debuffs don't really affect him because his skills act as if he has a 50% attack buff on them with his 50% defense buff, which also makes him tanky, which also makes his shield tanky, which makes him more impossible to hit. So Jabra's kit is extremely loaded. Homeboy never falters. If you honestly, to this day, at least as of the moment of this video, I think he is one of the best investments because he's a fantastic support. He is a fantastic unit. I think he will be around for a while, and Homeboy is just not going anywhere because every unit that comes out, he generally does fairly well against, especially like the newest EX Garp and even Kobe, which Kobe can one-shot him as well, but you can fight him. So it's 50-50. So for the most part, that is our top bounty fests of each of the years of One Piece Bounty Rush's existence. So let me know what you guys think, and let me know if you guys would pick any other units between each of the years. I would love to know and see what y'all got to say. Without further ado, I'm taking off. I hope you guys check me out on Twitch, Twitter, Discord. Those links are down below. Thank y'all so much if you made it this far, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. I'm your boy Romanpuss, and I'm taking off. Yeah, holy! Peace, beautiful people.